So I have some time before we get on to tonight's festivities between St. Louis and Dallas, and I wanted to talk about, of all the award nominees, Rasmus Dahlin is the one that it doesn't seem to get as much credit, and I know Blues fans are going to say that I gloss over on the Blues. I think there's a perception that it's just not there. Because, ironically, I'm talking about Buffalo, a team that at points this season I had fans saying, Shannon hates us. No. And Dahlin, genuinely, I think if he played for a team that either was A in the playoffs, or if he played in a bigger market, a more visible winning market, I think he would get a lot more consideration for Rookie of the Year. I think it's easy to gloss over what he did as an 18-year-old kid in this league. I mean, seriously, was born April 13th of 2000. He just turned 19. Put up 44 points as a rookie in 82 games. This is not normal. 9 goals, 35 assists. He did have the minus 13 number, but we'll come back to that. Because genuinely, I don't look at him and say, well, he really fell apart there. But we'll get into it. He had 5 power play goals, 20 power play points out of his 44, 4 game-winning goals. So when he scored, it was important. And I think the important thing, too, with him is that you look at Buffalo and how they performed when he did well. And in games that Buffalo won, 33 games played, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points, and he was at plus 27. When he had a really good game, Buffalo won. That's it. Now, in their losses, 39 of them, 14 assists, no goals, minus 36. Now, the other 2 goals took place in overtime losses, and I just want to get into just regulation here, okay? Minus 36. So if he was off, they lost. If he was on, they won. As an 18-year-old kid. This is insane. And again, because we're so used to now these kids just come in and they're really good. They're really good. They're fine. At the time he's drafted, a lot of scouts are saying best defenseman to go in the draft since Denny Potvin back in the 70s. Best defenseman to go number 1 overall since Denny Potvin. That's some pretty heady territory. And yet, he was the number 23 scorer in the entire National Hockey League among defensemen. That's crazy. Because he's a rookie, and he was 18 when he did a lot of this. When you look at the losses, a lot of that is towards the end of the season where Buffalo was just having a miserable time of it from top to bottom. Skinner had stopped scoring. Reinhart's scoring had dropped off. Ristolainen was on his way to the green jacket for the worst plus-minus in the league. So you can look at Dahlin's numbers and say, well, they're bad in losses, or you can look at the entire Sabres as a whole and say, well, they got bad for everybody. He had a rough March. That can be explained as well by another thing that happens with a lot of rookies. You hit that wall at about 50, 55 games. You're not used to playing that much. You're not used to having the schedule that they go through in the NHL. It's easy to underestimate just how grueling that schedule is and why it sometimes takes until that 3rd year before a kid really learns how to play. Did I mention he was 18 at the start of the year? Anyways, his time on ice was 21 minutes and 9 seconds per game. So it's not like he was playing sheltered minutes. It was, here you go, you're in. But I get times of, no, you're in. You're in, you're done, you're good. And, he didn't have a whole lot of sheltering when it comes to the defensemen that were on this team. He didn't have that wily veteran really to take him under his wing as much as some others may. And he was going into a situation where it's a team that hadn't made the playoffs in a while. So, that 21 minutes and 9 seconds is crazy because his ice time seemed to be picking up during the season. There were plenty of games where he played 23, 24 minutes. Now, when we're comparing him to the other big defenseman, Heiskanen, right, in Dallas, he had 44 points to the 33 for Heiskanen. He had a minus 13 to Heiskanen's minus 14. Miro played for the Dallas Stars, one of the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League, and he had a minus 14 rating. I love Heiskanen as much as anybody else. He did have his struggles during the season, and I don't put him in the same category as Dahlin. 20 power play points for Dahlin to 8 for Heiskanen. 21 minutes and 9 seconds for Dahlin, 23 minutes and 7 seconds per game for Heiskanen. So Heiskanen did play more than did Dahlin. The points weren't as high. So points per minute, if we get into that kind of minutia, you're going to see Dahlin way ahead on that as well. April 13th, 2000 was the birth date of Dahlin. The team is out of the playoffs. The season is done when he turns 19. He still neither of these guys could drink in the States. July 18th of 1999 is the birth date for Heiskanen. This year's this year's rookie class, pretty solid. And I think it's funny because we always talk about Pettersson and we always talk about Binnington, what great seasons they had. But I'm telling you, there's a reason that Dahlin's top 3 in rookies. And I'm really looking at this and I'm thinking, it would be really interesting if Dahlin got some love from the voters, got some first place votes, and made this really, really interesting. Because I could make the statement that he was Buffalo's best defenseman this year. I could also make the statement that Heiskanen has Klingberg there, and Klingberg's the best defenseman on the Dallas Stars. I could make that statement. And again, this isn't about tearing anybody down. This is about the fact that when we're talking about the Calder and who may or may not have gotten robbed, we don't talk enough about this kid who at age 18, did I mention he's 18? Did I mention that? He was 18. Sorry, Rasmus. If you see this, you were 18 during the whole season. Didn't turn 19 until your season was over. This kid's only going to get better. And the amount of talent he has and the composure. And I think that the number one way that I can close this is simple. In an overtime situation for Buffalo, every time I watched Buffalo in overtime, Dahlin was that third guy on the ice. You'd have Skinner, you'd have Eichel, or you'd have Reinhart, Eichel, whoever. Dahlin was that guy on the point. Once Montour came in, that took some of the pressure off of Dahlin. But I would imagine that next season, that pressure is only going to ramp up. His ice time will likely ramp up. And unlike Heiskanen the year after he's drafted, he gets to continue to develop before coming over. Dahlin's drafted and he's in the lineup. Here you go, you're done. Dallas basically said with Heiskanen, okay, we'll give him another year in Europe and then bring him over. Dahlin didn't have that luxury. So kudos to the kid for going through what really had to feel awful at times with Buffalo. And I just wanted to do a video on the fantastic rookie season that he had, because in the midst of all these debates, it's totally being forgotten. We want to talk about Pettersson and his goals for Vancouver and Binnington and how great he's been for St. Louis. And meanwhile, this 18, did I mention he was 18? This kid comes in and plays pretty fantastic at times for Buffalo, was a large part of the reason that they were in a playoff race to begin with. He is their number one guy for the future, probably, for at least, I would say, a decade, barring him wanting out or money or whatever, right? This kid's going to be fantastic, and I just find it strange that we don't talk as much about him as we do about the other rookies. So I wanted to do a video on that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And yes, I could have got more into advanced stats and all this other stuff, but really, I like to keep it as simple as possible, because in essence, when people are voting on this stuff, I don't think they get into all the minutiae on it. I think they just look at it on the face of it and they go, you know what, this guy was one of the best rookies this year, and they go with it that way. But let me know your thoughts. I'll talk to you again soon.